Harlem, 1967, 11:47 p.m. Ghost's hand was shaking as he gripped the .45 automatic. $50,000. That was the bounty Frank Lucas had put on Bumpy Johnson's head. And Ghost, the best contract killer in New York, had taken the job. The plan was simple. Wait outside Bumpy's building on 137th Street. Hit him when he comes home. Fast, clean, professional. 9 shooters. 9 angles. No escape. Ghost had done this 100 times before. Politicians, witnesses, mob bosses who talk too much. This should have been easy. Except, as Ghost positioned himself in the alley behind the bodega, watching Bumpy's brownstone, something felt wrong. The street was too quiet, too empty. At 11:52 p.m., Bumpy's Cadillac pulled up. But Bumpy didn't get out. The driver's window rolled down. Bumpy looked directly at Ghost's hiding spot, smiled, and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. Jerome Patterson, also known as Ghost, you got 8 men with you. Flacco on the fire escape, T-Bone in the Oldsmobile, Quick on the rooftop. I know where all of you are. Come out, let's talk. Ghost's blood turned to ice. How did Bumpy know his real name? How did Bumpy know where his crew was positioned? How did Bumpy know any of this? You got 2 choices, Bumpy continued. Come out now and read the files I got on each of you. Or stay hidden and find out what 40 guns sound like when they all fire at once. From windows, from rooftops, from doorways, people emerged, armed. 40, maybe 50. All pointing weapons at the 9 hiding spots. Ghost stepped into the light, hands visible. What he saw next made his stomach drop. On the sidewalk sat 9 folding chairs. And on each chair was a manila folder with a name on it, his name, his crew's names, all of them. What nobody knew, what Frank Lucas didn't know, was that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 2 weeks. And what he'd prepared in those 2 weeks wasn't just defense. It was psychological warfare that would destroy every man who came for him and send one of them back to Frank Lucas missing a finger. To understand what happened that night on 137th Street, you need to understand who Ghost was. Jerome. Ghost Patterson wasn't some street thug. He was a professional, the best contract killer in New York. Maybe the best on the entire East Coast. 38 years old, 15 years in the game. Never caught, never identified, never failed a contract. He'd learned his trade in the Army. Sniper Division, 2 tours in Korea. And came home in 1952 with skills that translated perfectly to civilian murder. Politicians who asked too many questions. Witnesses who saw too much. Mob bosses who forgot their place. Ghost handled them all, clean, quiet, professional. By 1967, Ghost was making 6 figures a year killing people for money. He lived in a modest apartment in the Bronx, drove a 3-year-old Chevy, dressed like an accountant. Nobody would ever suspect him. That was the point. But Ghost had one weakness, one thing that could break through his professional detachment. His daughter, Maya. 11 years old, lived with his ex-wife Jennifer in Queens. Ghost sent money every month, never missed. $2,000 regular as clockwork, more than the divorce decree required. He saw Maya every other weekend, took her to the park, to the movies, to her ballet recitals. She thought he was a security consultant, traveled a lot, made good money, kept people safe. She wasn't wrong. Just didn't know who he was keeping safe, or who he was keeping them safe from. Ghost loved that little girl more than anything in the world, would die for her, would kill for her, had killed for her. When Jennifer needed money for Maya's private school, Ghost took 2 extra contracts. When Maya needed braces, Ghost worked overtime. Everything he did, every person he killed, was for her future. That was his weakness, and Bumpy Johnson knew it. When Frank Lucas approached Ghost about the Bumpy job, Ghost almost said no. Bumpy had a reputation. Smart, connected, saw things coming before they happened. But $50,000 split 9 ways was still $5,555 per man. Good money. Plus, Frank had done his homework. Bumpy's cousin Nat is in Philadelphia this week, Frank said. Business trip. Won't be back until Saturday. Bumpy's vulnerable. Thursday night, he comes home alone. This is the window. Frank spread out a map of Harlem. 9 shooters, 9 positions, overwhelming force. You're in, you're out. Bumpy's dead before his people even know what happened. Ghost studied the map, the exits, the sight lines, the timing. It looked solid. Who else you got? Ghost asked. Best crew I could find, Miguel Rodriguez, Terrence Williams, Raymond Jackson, all professionals, all vetted. They know it's Bumpy? They know. They don't care. Money's money. Ghost should have walked away, should have trusted his instincts, but $5,555 is $5,555. I'm in, Ghost said, but we do it my way. I run the operation. Yak nobody deviates from the plan. Done. They shook hands. What Ghost didn't know was that Frank's cleaning lady, a woman named Estrella who'd worked for him for 3 years, had heard every word. Estrella cleaned Frank's apartment every Tuesday and Friday, dusted his shelves, vacuumed his floors, emptied his trash. Frank never looked at her, never asked her name, never thought she mattered. Big mistake, because Estrella's sister Maria worked for Bumpy Johnson, had for 6 years, cleaned Bumpy's office, made his coffee, kept his calendar. And every time Estrella heard something interesting at Frank's place, she called Maria. Maria called Bumpy. This had been happening for 2 years. Every move Frank made, Bumpy knew about it within hours. When Frank met with suppliers, Bumpy knew. When Frank planned shipments, Bumpy knew. When Frank hired hitmen, Bumpy definitely knew. So when Estrella called Maria on October 8th and said Frank was planning something big, Bumpy wasn't surprised. 9 men, Estrella reported. Professional crew. Leader named Ghost. They're hitting Bumpy on October 22nd, Thursday night, outside his building. By the time Ghost left Frank's apartment at 8:47 p.m., Bumpy had already started making phone calls. By 9:15 p.m., Bumpy's cousin Nat was gathering intelligence on all 9 men. By October 10th, Bumpy had full dossiers. Ghost's daughter, Miguel's immigration status, T-Bone's Baltimore warrant, Quick's fixed fights, everything. By October 15th, Bumpy had photographers following Ghost's daughter to school. Not to hurt her, just to document that they could. By October 20th, 2 days before the hit, Bumpy had prepared 9 manila folders, in each one containing enough leverage to destroy a life, and had positioned 40 armed men around his building. Waiting. October the 22nd, 1967, 11:55 p.m., Ghost stood in front of his chair, in front of his folder. His 8 crew members stood next to their own chairs. All of them surrounded by armed men. All of them trapped. Open the folders, Bumpy said. Read what's inside. Then we'll talk about whether you still want Frank's money. Ghost picked up his folder. His hands were shaking. Inside were photographs. His daughter Maya, walking to school. Timestamp, this morning, playing in the park. Timestamp, yesterday, at her ballet class. Timestamp, last Thursday. Every photo was recent. Every photo showed that Bumpy's people had been watching her, could reach her, could hurt her. Below the photos was a handwritten note. Beautiful girl. Ghost's vision blurred. Tears threatened to fall. His daughter, his only daughter, the one pure thing in his dirty life. Bumpy had gone after Maya. Not physically, but the threat was clear. Those photos proved Bumpy's people could reach her, could hurt her, could take her from him. Ghost had killed 47 people in his career: senators, judges, mobsters, snitches. Never felt bad about any of them. But this was different. He looked up, met Bumpy's eyes, tried to keep his voice steady. Failed. You wouldn't. She's just a kid. You're right. I wouldn't, Bumpy replied. His voice was firm but not unkind. I don't hurt children. Never have. Never will. Those photos aren't a threat to her. They're information for you. They say, I could reach her if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Bumpy stepped closer. Here's what I want, Jerome. I want you to walk away, right now, tonight. You go back to Queens. You kiss your daughter goodnight. You tuck her into bed. You read her a story, and you forget Frank Lucas ever offered you this job. And if I don't? Then tomorrow morning, Jennifer gets a package, photos of you, at crime scenes, with weapons, doing what you do. She finds out what her ex-husband really does for a living. She gets a restraining order. She moves, changes her number. You never see Maya again. Bumpy paused. Not because I hurt her, because you chose Frank's money over her safety. That's on you, not me. Ghost felt his chest tighten. And he'd spent 15 years keeping his work separate from his family. 15 years making sure Maya never knew, never suspected, never had to carry the weight of what her father was. And now Bumpy could destroy all of that with one phone call. Next to Ghost, Miguel opened his folder. His hands were shaking. Inside were immigration documents, his real immigration documents. The ones that showed he'd entered the country illegally in 1959. Deportation orders already filled out, ready to file. One phone call to ICE and Miguel would be back in Mexico within a week, away from his wife, away from his 3 kids, away from the life he'd built over 8 years. Por favor, Miguel whispered. My family is here legally, Bumpy interrupted. Your wife, your kids. They got papers, green cards, they're safe. But you disappear tonight. You never see them again, or you walk away from this job and you get to keep being their husband, their father. Your choice. T-Bone opened his folder next, saw a case file from Baltimore, murder, 1963. Tyrone Washington, age 19, shot twice in an alley behind a pool hall. Case went cold. Until now, new witness statements, ballistics evidence, DNA from the scene, all pointing to Terrence T-Bone Williams. Baltimore PD would love to close this case, Bumpy said. They got a detective who's been working it for 4 years, won't let it go. You want me to send him this file, or you want to walk away and let sleeping dogs lie? One by one, the 9 men read their folders. One by one, they understood. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a demonstration of power. Bumpy Johnson knew everything about them, every secret, every crime, every pressure point, and he was offering them one chance. Walk away, or lose everything. Drop the contract and walk away, Bumpy said. Your secrets stay secret. Your families stay safe. You go home. You forget this night. You forget Frank Lucas. You forget I exist. And if we don't, Ghost asked quietly, then tomorrow morning, 9 phone calls get made. ICE gets a tip. Baltimore PD gets evidence. The Boxing Commission gets documents. Your ex-wife gets photos showing exactly what you do for a living. And your daughter gets to visit you in prison if you survive the night, which you won't. Bumpy gestured at the armed men surrounding them. You came here to kill me. 9 professional killers against 1 old man. Should have been easy. Except I knew you were coming. I know where you live. I know what you love. I know how to destroy you without ever pulling a trigger. He paused. So what's it going to be? Frank's $5,555 or your daughter's father? Ghost's gun clattered to the pavement. We're done. We walk. Smart man. One by one, the other 8 dropped their weapons, started backing away, except one. Vinny Rossi, the Italian connection Frank had brought in, stood his ground. You think you're tough? Vinny said. You think we're just going to walk away? You should, Bumpy replied. I ain't scared of some. Vinny reached for his pistol. A shot rang out from a window above. The bullet hit the pavement 6 inches from Vinny's foot. Sparks flew. Concrete exploded. Vinny froze. Next one's in your chest, Bumpy said calmly. You pull that gun, you die. Maybe you get a shot off. Maybe you don't. Either way, you're dead. And tomorrow, Fat Tony Salerno gets a very interesting package about the 30 grand you've been skimming from his operations. Vinny's face went white. That's right. I know about that too. Now drop the gun and walk away, or die here and let Tony read about your theft in tomorrow's paper. Vinny dropped his gun, turned, started walking, but his face was red, his fists were clenched. This ain't over, Vinny muttered. Yes, it is, Bumpy called after him. Ghost watched Vinny walk away, looked at Bumpy one last time. My daughter is safe. I don't hurt kids, never have. Those photos were just to show you I could reach her if I wanted to, but I don't want to. Walk away, stay away. She grows up with a father. Ghost nodded, turned, walked into the night. By 12:15 a.m., 137th Street was empty. All 9 hitmen gone. Bumpy collected the folders. He walked back inside his building, made one phone call. Frank, your 9 boys came by, sent them home. You ready to accept you can't beat me, or you want to try again? Frank didn't answer, just heavy breathing. Defeat. Your tribute just tripled, Bumpy said. 30,000 a month now. And Frank, this is your last warning. Try this again. I don't send them home. I send them to the morgue. Click. October the 23rd, 1967. 3:17 a.m., Vinny Rossi sat in his apartment in Little Italy, drinking Jack Daniels straight from the bottle. Angry, humiliated, destroyed, he'd walked away from Bumpy Johnson, backed down in front of 8 other professionals. Showed weakness. Word would spread. By tomorrow, every mobster in New York would know. Vinny Rossi folded. Vinny Rossi got scared. Vinny Rossi couldn't finish a job. His reputation was finished. 10 years he'd been building his name. 10 years of taking the hard contracts, the dangerous hits, the jobs other people wouldn't touch. And now? Now he was the guy who backed down from an old man with folders. Unless he did something about it. Vinny grabbed the phone, dialed with shaking fingers. 3 rings. Yeah? Fat Tony Salerno's voice was gravelly, half asleep. Tony, it's Vinny. Sorry to call so late. We need to talk. It's important. This better be good. It's about Bumpy Johnson. He's got documents. Says I've been skimming from your operations. 30 grand over 2 years. It's complete bullshit, Tony. Lies. He's trying to turn you against me before I can finish a job I'm working. Silence on the other end. Then, what job? Can't say over the phone, but Bumpy knows about it. He's trying to sabotage it by feeding you fake evidence. I wanted you to hear from me first, face to face, man to man, so you know it's lies before he tries to poison you against me. Smart move. Get ahead of the story. Control the narrative. Make Tony doubt Bumpy's evidence before he even saw it. Where are you? Tony asked. Home, Little Italy. Stay there. I'm sending a car. 20 minutes. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate. Click. Tony hung up. Vinny poured another drink. Downed it. This would work. Tony would believe him over Bumpy. Had to. They'd worked together for 3 years. Tony knew Vinny was loyal, knew Vinny was good for business. One conversation, face to face. clear the air. Then Vinny would go back and finish what he started. Kill Bumpy Johnson. Prove he wasn't weak. Prove he could finish a contract and restore his reputation. At 3:34 a.m., headlights appeared outside Vinny's window. Black Cadillac. Tony's car. Vinny grabbed his jacket, headed downstairs. 3 men were waiting, big men, muscle. "Boss wants to see you," one said. "Yeah, I know. That's why I called." They didn't respond, just opened the back door. Vinny got in. The ride to the social club took 12 minutes. Nobody spoke. Vinny tried to make small talk, got nothing back, just silence, cold, ominous. At 3:47 a.m., they pulled up to the club. The lights were on inside. At 3:47 in the morning. That was wrong. Tony didn't keep late hours. Vinny's stomach dropped, but he'd already made the call, already committed. No turning back now. He walked inside. Fat Tony sat in his usual red leather chair, smoking a cigar. On the table in front of him sat a package, manila envelope, yet already opened. "Sit down, Vinny," Tony said. His voice was calm, flat. Vinny sat. "You said Bumpy's got fake evidence." "That's right. He's lying, trying to—" "This arrived an hour ago." Tony gestured at the package. "Courier, hand-delivered from Bumpy Johnson." Vinny's mouth went dry. Inside are ledgers, bank statements, account numbers, dates, amounts. $30,000 in missing money over 2 years, all traced to you. "Tony, those are forged. These are our accounts, Vinny, our real accounts, from our real bank, with your real signature." Tony slid the ledgers across the table. Vinny looked at them, felt his world collapse. They were real, not forged, not fake, real records from the Genovese family accounts, records that should have been locked in a safe, records that nobody outside the family should ever see. Records that Bumpy Johnson somehow had. How did he— Vinny started. "Doesn't matter how," Tony interrupted. "What matters is you stole from me, from this family, $30,000, and then you lied to my face about it. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time." "You needed time. You've had 2 years, Vinny, 2 years to come clean, 2 years to make it right. Instead, you kept stealing, kept lying, and when you got caught, you tried to blame Bumpy." Tony stood up, all 320 pounds of him. "You know what the penalty is for stealing from the family?" Vinny knew. Everyone knew. "Tony, please, I can make this right." Tony nodded to his men. They grabbed Vinny, dragged him to a back room, threw him in a chair, tied his hands behind his back. Tony followed, stood in the doorway, smoking his cigar. And one of his men approached with bolt cutters, large, industrial, made for cutting chain-link fences. "Wait," Vinny started. They grabbed his right hand, forced it flat on a table, spread his fingers. "Tony, no, please, I'll pay it back, every penny, I swear." The bolt cutters closed around Vinny's right index finger, just above the second knuckle. "Tony, please!" They squeezed. The blades cut through skin, through bone, through everything. Vinny's scream echoed through the empty club. The finger came off, clean, dropped to the floor. Blood poured from the stump. Vinny tried to pull his hand back. They held it firm. "That's for stealing," Tony said. "You try it again. You lose the whole hand, understand?" Vinny couldn't speak, just nodded, tears streaming down his face. They untied him, threw him in the trunk of a car, and drove him to the Bronx, dumped him in an alley at 4:47 a.m. bleeding, missing a finger, barely conscious. One of Tony's men pinned a note to his shirt. "Thieves lose fingers. Next time, you lose the hand. Get out of New York. Don't come back." "Tony." They drove away, left him bleeding in the alley. Vinny crawled to a payphone, called 911. An ambulance came, took him to the hospital. He spent 3 days in the ICU. When he got out, he packed one bag, left everything else, took a bus to Miami, changed his name to Vincent Romano, got a job washing dishes at a restaurant, never came back to New York, never took another contract, never spoke about what happened in Harlem. The finger was a constant reminder. Every time he looked at his right hand, he saw what remained. 4 fingers instead of 5. A missing piece. A permanent scar. The cost of trying to kill Bumpy Johnson. October the 25th, 1967. Ghost sat in a diner in Queens, reading the newspaper, small article, page 9. Man found in Bronx, missing finger. Vincent Rossi, 34. Police investigating. Ghost folded the paper. Thought about Vinny, about how he'd tried to keep fighting, about how Tony had cut off his finger. Ghost had made the right choice. Walk away, keep his daughter safe. He pulled out his wallet, looked at Maya's photo, made a decision. He called a number. This is Ghost. I need to talk to Bumpy Johnson. 2 minutes later, Bumpy came on the line. Didn't expect to hear from you. I want to work for you, Ghost said. Why? Because Frank's an idiot. Tony's a psychopath. You're the smartest man I've ever met. And I got a daughter to protect. You're a killer. I'm a professional. I work for whoever's smart enough to keep me alive. Bumpy was quiet. $500 a week, plus bonuses. You run security operations. You report to me, nobody else. Done. And Ghost, you ever point a gun at me again, I kill you myself. Understood. Ghost hung up, smiled. He'd come to Harlem to kill Bumpy Johnson. Left working for him. Funny how that worked out. The lesson. Here's what Frank Lucas never learned. You can't beat someone who sees you coming. Frank hired 9 professional killers, spent $50,000, planned for 2 weeks. And Bumpy knew the entire time, knew the crew, knew the date, knew the positions. Why? Because Bumpy had informants everywhere. Frank's cleaning lady worked for Bumpy. The janitor in Ghost's building reported to Bumpy. The bartender where Vinny drank called Bumpy. Invisible people. In people Frank never noticed. People who saw everything. And when the 9 killers showed up, Bumpy wasn't hiding. He was waiting. With folders, with leverage, with the one thing more powerful than bullets, information, Ghost walked away to protect his daughter. Vinny tried to fight and lost a finger, not to Bumpy, to his own boss. Because Bumpy sent the evidence to Fat Tony. Let the mob handle their own traitor. That's genius. That's strategy. Frank spent $50,000 trying to kill Bumpy. Got nothing but higher tribute payments. Bumpy spent maybe $200 on folders and photos. Gained a top-tier operative, destroyed Frank's reputation, sent a message to every killer in New York. Don't touch Bumpy Johnson. You'll lose more than you gain. Look, if this story taught you something about real power, hit subscribe right now. We drop these Bumpy Johnson legends every week, and trust me, they only get crazier. Drop a comment. Would you have walked away like Ghost or gone down like Vinny? Turn on notifications because next week we're breaking down how Bumpy walked into a police precinct and walked out with 3 dirty cops arrested. You don't want to miss it. Remember, in Harlem, information was power, and Bumpy Johnson had all the information.